Alright folks, here we go then. Tuesday the 15th of July, sun's out. Well, maybe not in Glasgow, but we've got plenty of heat coming from the world of Celtic today. Loads to get through a cryptic kit launch. That basically confirmed what we all already knew, the squad stepping back into history with a visit to that magical place in Lisbon, a fresh name on the transfer radar, and a few words on who might be coming or going before the window shuts. So grab your brew, take a seat. Let's get into the Celtic chat. Now, let's start with what the club tried to be all mysterious about yesterday. A teaser video dropped that for a split second might have made folk think Celtic were launching some kind of official snooker range. You had a number 7 pool ball rolling into the frame folk in Celtic gear around a pool table. And if you didn't already clock it, it was all a play on the new away kit. The number 7 pretty clear. That's a nod to Henrik Larsson, the King of Kings. Maybe even a wee tribute to John Higgins as well, seeing as he was likely involved in the shoot. Word is they filmed part of the promo at McCool's in Glasgow city centre, which was mysteriously closed for a few hours not long ago. Now it all adds up. We're expecting the official launch this morning around 8, so depending on when you're watching this, it might already be out there in the wild. Henke Higgins, Luke McCow, all part of the reveal, alongside some of the current squad modeling the new strip. That, let's be honest, we all saw leaked about 6 months ago. Bit of a slow burn on that one, Celtic. But even so, the campaign's clever. A wee bit of heritage, a bit of showbiz, and the King of Kings front and center. What more do you want? No, it's always a moment when a new kit drops, especially an away one. There's just something about the away strips that gets people going. You're either in love at first sight or raging because it's a color that's never been seen before in the club's history. But this one feels like they've leaned into something a bit iconic. You can imagine Larsson in his prime stepping onto the pitch wearing it, and that's the kind of image the club wants you to hold on to. Speaking of iconic moments, let's shift over to something that honestly gave me goosebumps: the current squad visiting the Estadio Nacional in Lisbon. The very ground where Celtic became the first British club to win the European Cup back in 1967. Just hearing that gives you chills. I mentioned this last week that their training base in Lisbon is right next to the stadium, and I said then surely it's part of the plan for the squad to go there. Turns out it was. Brendan Rodgers apparently wanted the lads to make that trip, to soak in the history, and yesterday they did just that. The players got onto the pitch, stood where the Lisbon Lions made history, and even climbed up into the stands where Billy McNeil lifted that famous trophy. Look, I know I'm biased, but tell me a more iconic image in football than McNeil with that cup above his head. You can't. That photo's etched into the DNA of this club. So for the current players to stand there to look around and maybe get a sense of what it meant, what it still means, that's powerful. It connects them to something bigger than just the next fixture. It's about legacy, about honor, about what it means to wear that badge. Now, beyond the sentiment, it was a handy way to see who's actually over in Lisbon with the squad right now. The club posted a few pictures, on Facebook of all places, which felt a bit like checking your auntie's holiday photos. But still, it gave us a look at who's there. Paulo Bernardo, no surprises in town. It's his home city after all. And it looks like yesterday was the first time he actually trained with the group. Cameron Carter-Vickers is there too, though he won't be featuring against Sporting midweek. As for Alistair Johnston and Lyle Abada, still no sign as of yesterday. They might just be joining back up once the squad returns to Scotland. It's all a bit fluid at the minute, as pre-season often is. Right, moving on to transfer talk now, and this is where things get a wee bit juicy. First name to bring up is Shinya Yamada. Been keeping an eye on Japanese media, and Spinici, one of the major players over there, finally has something to say. For a while, it was other outlets whispering about Yamada, but Spinici dropped an article recently, and while it didn't have quotes confirming the transfer outright, it did state fairly plainly that his move to Celtic is basically a done deal. They're saying it's going to happen after Japan's match against South Korea today, which, by the way, is the final of the E1 East Asian Championship. Both sides have won their matches so far, so it's essentially a winner-takes-all game. Yamada's expected to start, and once that match is wrapped up, it sounds like the move to Celtic will kick into high gear. Now I get it. When it's a Japanese player, some fans hold off on getting excited until there's a photo at Glasgow Airport or the signing video at Lennoxtown. But this seems as close to official as it gets without the scarf pick. And look, if the club's moving to bring him in, you'd think that means he's part of Rodgers' plans right away. With all out for a while, and Johnny Kenny likely heading out on loan, you'd imagine Yamada is arriving as someone who will be competing directly with Kyogo and Ida. Or maybe just Kyogo if Ida doesn't come back. That brings us to Callum Wilson, or Callum Osmond as he's listed on the team sheet, the young striker who's got some minutes recently. What have you made of him? I'll be honest, I've seen flashes. He's quick, makes clever runs, and doesn't look overwhelmed by the pace of the game. He had a couple of decent chances against Cork City, and while it didn't quite click for him, you can see the intent. Saturday maybe not quite as sharp. There were a few breakdowns in play when the ball got to him. But he looks like someone Rodgers wants to keep around. He doesn't seem like a loan candidate this season. Feels more like that third choice striker option. Someone to come on in the second half or start the odd match during a busy spell. That said, I still wouldn't be shocked if the club moves for another forward before the window shuts, just to beef up the options a bit more. Now I've got to bring up a name that's been doing the rounds even though I'm not buying it for a second. Odon Edward. A report popped up from a French journalist claiming that Palace have put Edward on the market and that Celtic are monitoring the situation. Brendan Rodgers apparently is open to a reunion. I mean, come on. No disrespect to Edward, but I'll be absolutely stunned if this happened. Completely blindsided. We're talking Brendan Rodgers levels of unexpected when he came back. You could maybe talk yourself into it if you really wanted to, but let's be honest, this one's not happening. No way! And that's not me slating Edward as a player. He had his moments here, he delivered in big games and at times looked unstoppable. But the way he left the way things went in his final season, it split the fan base. Some still adore him, others feel he down tools. But all of that's academic because he's not coming back. Now a name that does seem more realistic, and one that I don't think has had enough attention yet, is Flavio Nazinho. A Portuguese left-back currently at Cercle Bruges, and reports from Belgium suggest he's high on Celtic's wish list. This one came out via HLN, who've had a few accurate scoops in the past. They're saying Nazinho could be on his way to Glasgow, especially with Greg Taylor moving on and Kieran Tanny still being managed carefully. He's 21, turns 22 in a few days and had a solid season in the Belgian league. Also, featured for Portugal's under-21s in the Euros over the summer. Now on paper, he ticks a lot of boxes. Young, pacey, attacking fullback. The sort of profile Celtic tends to go for in recent years. And if Tierney's going to be rotated, which by the way, Rodgers all but confirmed in a recent interview when he said they can't be too emotional with managing KT, then you need someone reliable to step in. It's not a backup role in the traditional sense. Whoever comes in is going to play a lot of minutes. League games, domestic cups, maybe even some of the European group stage fixtures, depending on Tierney's fitness. So getting that signing right is massive. And the name helps, Nazinho. Feels like a fan favorite in the making, just off the name alone. Can already see folk printing it on the back of their shirts. And if you're the type who believes in omens, think about this. When's the last time Celtic had a player with a name ending in Inho who didn't win the crowd over going out weight? Anyway, this one seems to have legs. It's not just some daft rumor from a random Twitter account. It's coming out of Belgium, where the player actually is from journalists with a track record. So yeah, if you're looking for the next left back to challenge Tierney and fill that gap left by Taylor, this could be the guy. And that's just scratching the surface today. Still got the match against Sporting coming up, which we'll look at tomorrow. Could have more transfer movement before then too. You know how quick things can change at this stage of the window. 1 minute is quiet, next thing you know, someone's spotted at Glasgow airport. All right, let's keep it going then, because there's still loads more bubbling away under the surface at Celtic just now. We've touched on the obvious headlines, the away kit tease Lisbon trip Yamada close to signing, and the noise around Nazinho. But this is the time of year when the full picture is never quite clear. You've got trialists training behind the scenes, agents floating names to the media just to stir interest, and players quietly packing their bags with nobody the wiser until it's announced. And with Brendan Rodgers back at the helm, you can bet he's pushing for a few more bits to fall into place before the real action kicks off. Now, one thing that keeps coming up among the support is the question of depth. It's not just about signings for the sake of it. We've seen enough of that over the years. It's about making sure this squad is genuinely ready to fight on multiple fronts. Champions League, domestic title, race cups, maybe even a wee run in Europe past Christmas if the stars align. And when you look at where we are now, there's still a few areas that feel a bit light. Left back was the glaring one until the Nazinho name came up, but even in midfield, you sense there's a conversation happening. Callum McGregor's got the armband and the engine, no question. Matt O'Reilly's still here for now, though you get the feeling there's clubs circling him quietly. Paulo Bernardo, as we said, just started training and looks like he'll be involved properly from here on out. But beyond that, you start looking around and thinking, are we one injury away from a bit of a problem? Rodgers has always been a manager who likes control. Control over the game, over the squad, over the tempo. And to get that, he needs options. Not just bodies, but the right kind of player, someone who can step in without the level dropping. That's why the next few signings, if they happen, are going to be fascinating. Because this isn't a rebuild, but it's not far off it either. Celtic have been dominant domestically, but Europe is a different beast. And if Rodgers really wants to put a stamp on his squad, it'll come down to what we do in the next couple of weeks. And let's not forget there's the other side of this. Players going out. We've already mentioned Johnny Kenny, who looks set for another loan. You'd imagine that deal's all but done. Then there's players like Mikey Johnston. Still young, still talented, but maybe running out of time to prove he belongs here. You always hope for a late breakout, but you can only wait so long. And then there's the bigger question marks. What happens if someone comes in for Matt O'Reilly with silly money? What if Carter Vickers gets a Premier League offer? That's the reality of Celtic. You develop talent, and eventually someone's going to try to take it off your hands. The challenge is always replacing before the hole appears, not after. And look, Brendan knows this. You could see it in the way he was talking during the Asia tour. Measured but with purpose. He's not going to panic, but he's also not here for another trophy parade and early European exit. He came back for something more. And if the board's serious about matching that ambition, then we're going to see more movement soon. You don't bring back Kieran Tanny just to coast through the group stages. You don't build a team around Kyogo and McGregor just to fall short in the same old way. There has to be a bigger plan. Speaking of Tierney, let's circle back to that for a moment, because it really is something special to have him back. A player who's Celtic through and through, who knows what it means to wear the jersey and doesn't need a documentary to remind him. But Rodgers was spot on when he said we can't be too emotional about it. This isn't 2017. Tierney's had his injuries, and if we want him fit when it matters, those big Champions League nights, the crunch games away at Ibrox Cup finals, then we've got to manage him properly. That means rotation. That means resting him, even when it's tempting to just throw him in every match. And that's why someone like Nazinho becomes so important. Not just cover, but proper competition. Someone who can play, not just fill space. It's the same all over the pitch, really. You want players who are pushing each other. That's when you get the best out of a squad. When nobody's place is safe. When the young lads know they've got to train like monsters just to get on the bench. And you can see it already in some of the training clips. The intensity's up. Rodgers has that aura, that way of getting players to raise their level just by being around him. And that's what this group needs. After the highs under Postecoglou, it'd be easy to think this squad could just keep going. But football doesn't work like that. You stop moving, you get overtaken. And look, I know some fans still aren't fully sold on Rodgers coming back. I get it. The way he left before, it left a scar. But the truth is, he's here now, and he's still one of the best managers this club has had in recent memory. If anyone can get us firing in Europe, it's him. But he needs the tools to do it. He needs a squad that reflects the ambition he's talking about. And that's why the rest of this window is going to be so important. We've talked a lot about incoming players, but what about the academy lads coming through? It feels like a long time since we saw someone really break into the first team and stay there. There's talent in the youth setup, no doubt, but getting that next step is brutal. You've got to be exceptional just to get a sniff. And then when you do, you got to take the chance straight away. Otherwise, someone else gets bought, and suddenly you're back in the B team for another season. That's the challenge, and maybe Rodgers sees one or two that he thinks can make the leap. But again, time will tell. Then there's the European campaign looming. Draw's not too far off now, and folk are already wondering how we'll fare this time. Last season, there were moments. You think of the game against Real Madrid, where we looked incredible for 25 minutes before it all fell apart. But we need to stop being a team that plays well in spells. We need to become a team that wins games, that knows how to see it out, that can go to a tough away ground and come away with a point or better. And that comes down to experience, to game management. You only get that by playing at that level consistently, but it helps if you got the right blend of players to start with. And if I'm being honest, that's maybe the final piece of the puzzle here. Leadership. McGregor leads by example. Tierney, if he stays fit, brings that fire. But we're still short of vocal commanding types. The ones who drag you through a match when it's going wrong. The ones who don't just play well, but demand more from everyone around them. That's the kind of personality you need to bring in if you're going to level up this squad. Maybe someone like Yamada has it. Maybe it comes from within. But right now, you still get the feeling we're 1 or 2 leaders short. So yeah, there's work to be done. But there's also a foundation here that's better than most. We've got a spine, we've got a few stars, and we've got a manager who knows how to win. Now it's just about building around that properly. Getting the balance right, and maybe doing something special again. Because when you see the squad walking onto that pitch in Lisbon, when you see the photos of them standing where McNeil stood, it's not just a tourist trip. It's a reminder of what's possible, of what this club has done before, and what it can do again if we get it right. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are swirling around paradise this week as the latest arrival in the East End of Glasgow sets tongues wagging. Celtic summer business took a lively turn with the unveiling of Japanese starlet Yuki Yamada from Kawasaki Frontale, a move that's got fans and pundits alike buzzing with curiosity and cautious optimism. While it remains to be seen if he'll walk straight into Brendan Rodgers starting in Maine, the early signs are painting a promising picture of what could be a lightning start to his hoops journey. Yamada, a dynamic and technically sharp midfielder, is said to have caught the eye of the Celtic scouting department earlier this year, impressing not just with his pace and composure on the ball, but with his sharp instincts and relentless pressing, traits not unlike those of fellow countrymen Kyogo Furuhashi when he first graced the green and white. Though Celtic haven't confirmed transfer figures, sources suggest a modest fee by European standards, yet one that could prove to be a bargain if Yamada hits the ground running in Scottish football. Training sessions at Lennoxtown have reportedly seen Yamada settle in quickly, with onlookers noting his explosive first steps and seamless link-up with the midfield core. There's quiet chatter that the coaching staff are already penciling him in for a significant role during the early rounds of European qualifiers, banking on his ability to inject fresh energy into a squad eager to reclaim domestic dominance and make a dent on the continental stage. But with the Premiership a physically unforgiving battleground, the big question remains: can Yamada adapt to the rough and tumble nature of the Scottish game? Brendan Rodgers is no stranger to nurturing talent, and there's a belief that Yamada's disciplined approach and versatility could see him flourish under the Irishman's guidance. For now, it's all speculative, the kind of murmurs that ripple through pubs and fan forums as the season approaches. But if the early buzz holds true, Yuki Yamada might just be the spark Celtic need to ignite a new chapter, both at home and abroad. Keep your eye on this one. Hello fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.